Why do they keep walking toward the fire? The alien voice rasped like metal on stone, disbelief echoing in its tones. They don't retreat, another hissed, even when the heat devours their skin. The screen glowed with the image of a single human, Commander Lira Kane, stepping through the burning ruins of her own colony. Her face was streaked with ash and blood, her eyes hard as forged steel. Around her, the air shimmered with the glow of collapsing buildings. Every sensor reading screamed impossible. The fire should have consumed everything. But the humans kept moving through it. The Watchers, the Thar'kin, fell silent. Their scales glimmered with cold fear, their 6 pupils narrowing. They had conquered 50 worlds, erased countless species, and yet this human, refused to kneel. Lyra's boots crunched on scorched glass. Smoke clawed at her lungs, but she pressed forward. "Status report," she said into her comm. 3 survivors, Commander. Power core unstable. We've got 10 minutes before meltdown. Then we make those 10 minutes count, she replied, voice flat, emotion buried under command instinct. Her gaze flicked skyward, the black clouds boiling under the weight of Thar'kin warships. 10 minutes. 10 minutes to save a world. The heat danced on her visor and she could almost hear it whisper. Fire was never her enemy. It was her teacher. In orbit, the Thar'kin high strategist Valor leaned closer to the projection. They should be dead by now. Explain this. A science officer trembled. Their physiology. It adapts, their minds. Redirect fear into drive. The blaze doesn't deter them, it motivates them. Valor's mandibles clicked. Motivates? You mean they draw power from destruction? Affirmative, strategist. It's as if they thrive in ruin, Valor finished. His gaze hardened. Dangerous, Lira reached the reactor hub. The chamber pulsed with unstable light. A sun trapped inside steel bones. One wrong move and the planet would vanish in a storm of plasma. Sergeant Holt, her oldest comrade, stood by the console, his sleeve torn, eyes bloodshot. We can't contain it, Commander. Too much damage. Lira knelt beside the console, scanning the readings. We don't need to contain it. Her lips curved faintly, dangerously. We redirect it, Holt blinked. You mean, channel the meltdown? Exactly. Turn their strike into our ignition. If we can reroute the overload to the sky array, the pulse might take out their orbital fleet. That's suicide, Holt said. Half in awe, half in terror. That's humanity, she said quietly. Outside, the ground rumbled, alien dropships tearing through the storm. The Thar'kin were coming to claim the ashes. Their scanners had confirmed it. The humans were still alive. That could not be allowed. Valor's voice hissed through the command network. No prisoners. Burn the remains. But as the first dropships broke atmosphere, they saw something strange. A column of flame rising, curling, forming a pattern across the sky. A symbol, a burning human hand. The Thar'kin paused. Their sensors blared warnings, unknown energy signatures. The ground split and then a shockwave, brilliant, white-hot and silent. It reached orbit within seconds, slamming into the alien fleet. Fire engulfed them, dancing through their hulls like liquid vengeance. The Thar'kin ships fell, not from brute force, but from something far worse. A chain reaction ignited by human engineering and defiance. Lira and Holt stumbled out of the bunker, coughing, faces illuminated by the dying glow of the storm. The colony was gone, yes, but above them the alien fleet was burning. Holt fell to his knees, staring at the sky. You did it, Lyra's jaw tightened. We did it. Fire doesn't choose sides, Holt. It just waits for someone strong enough to wield it. A cold wind swept the ruins, carrying the scent of smoke and victory. The comm crackled with new signals. Survivors, scattered but alive. Lira stood tall, shoulders squared against the chaos. Send the transmission, she ordered. Message? Holt asked. She looked at the rising inferno and spoke, her voice calm, deliberate, terrifying in its certainty. Tell them humanity's not extinguished. We've only just begun to burn. Above, fragments of Thar'kin ships streaked across the atmosphere like meteors. In the silence that followed, Valor's voice broke over the fleet comms. They used fire as a weapon of rebirth. And for the first time in Thar'kin history, emotion they'd never known before, fear, rippled through their ranks. Humans had not perished in the blaze. They had become it. The silence, after the storm, was almost holy. The sky was a tapestry of shattered metal and burning trails. The Thar'kin fleet, once flawless and cruel, now drifted in ruin. From the blackened earth below, Commander Lira Kane stood, her reflection flickering in the glow of falling debris. Her comms cracked to life. "Commander, we're getting responses. Hundreds of them. Colonies thought destroyed. They're still transmitting." Lyra's eyes lifted to the heavens. The corners of her lips twitched. Then they saw the light. In the orbit above the smoldering planet, the Thar'kin flagship Vorsha floated wounded. Its command chamber was dim, smoke curling along the crystalline walls. Strategist Valor stared at the tactical map, where the once human colony now burned as a single white ember. "Strategist," the science officer stammered. "The humans' explosion, it was calculated. They didn't self-destruct, they adapted the meltdown." Valor's mandibles clicked. Adaptation under pressure. A primitive survival instinct, yet effective. The officer finished timidly. Valor turned his gaze toward the void, where fragments of his fleet still glowed red-hot. "These humans, they reshape death into defiance. The fire that should consume them instead makes them more dangerous." His tone dropped low, venomous. "We will study this species, before their flame spreads." Far below, amidst the ashes, Lira and her survivors moved through what was left of the colony's underground hangars. The air reeked of burnt metal and ozone. "Reactors gone," Holt reported, tapping his datapad. "But we've still got a few operational crafts." Lira brushed her gloved hand across the hull of a damaged ship, the Horizon. "Good," she said. "We're not staying to rebuild. We're taking the fight off-world." Private Nia, the youngest among them, hesitated. "Ma'am, what's left to fight for? The colony's gone. Earth's silent." "Maybe—" "Don't," Lira cut in sharply. "You think silence means surrender? It means they're waiting, watching. Humans don't vanish. We regroup." Her voice carried a quiet ferocity, a tone that pulled the others back from despair. Holt nodded grimly. "So what's the plan?" Lira looked toward the stars where faint sparks still burned. "We find other survivors. Light new fires. Make sure every Thar'kin world learns what happens when they strike humanity." Across the galaxy, that message had already begun to spread. Aboard the Kestrel outpost in the Orion Belt, a young communications officer caught the transmission. The holographic signal was weak, fragmented by radiation, but Lyra's words came through, raw and unshaken. "Tell them humanity's not extinguished. We've only just begun to burn." He stood frozen, tears mixing with soot on his face. Then he whispered into the silence. "They're alive." The outpost roared to life. Beacons flared. Hidden cells of survivors began transmitting coordinates. For the first time since the war began, hope flickered, small but unstoppable. The Thar'kin noticed. Their vast networks lit with reports, human activity rising in abandoned sectors, stolen weapons, intercepted transmissions, small raids, precise attacks, humans striking from shadows like sparks in dry grass. Valor watched the reports unfold with growing unease. "They learn from every loss," he muttered. "Each defeat becomes instruction. Each death a seed of vengeance." And Aide dared to ask, "Then, should we eliminate them entirely?" Valor turned, his 6 eyes narrowing. "We tried. Fire doesn't die when you stamp it. It spreads beneath your claws." He gazed into the holographic star map where faint human transmissions pulsed like embers across black space. "Find where it started. Find her." In the hangar of the Horizon, Lira stood before her crew, the dull hum of the ship's engines vibrating underfoot. "This isn't about revenge," she said. "It's about reminding them who we are. We built our civilization from ash before. We'll do it again. They fear our fire because they've never seen a species that turns pain into power." Holt grinned faintly. "You make it sound easy." Lyra's eyes burned like the reactor that had once nearly killed her. "Nothing about being human was ever easy. That's why we win." As the Horizon lifted from the ravaged surface, a storm of glowing ash swirled beneath them. The planet's dying breath carried upward, following the ship into the night. High above, Valor's voice echoed in the Thar'kin council chambers, broadcast to their entire dominion. "The humans call their flame strength. We will call it what it is, contagion. It must be contained." But even as he spoke, thousands of light years away, new fires were rising. In the hearts of scattered survivors, miners, engineers, farmers, soldiers, Each flame whispered the same defiant vow. They feared the blaze. Now they'll see what it becomes when we rise from it. And somewhere in the void, unseen, Lyra's voice carried across the comm channels again. They think they've seen our fire. They haven't seen it burn bright yet. "Commander, they're calling us something out there," Holt said, eyes glinting beneath the dim lights of the Horizon's bridge. "Every outpost, every cell we reach, they whisper the same name." Lira didn't look up from the tactical map. "Let me guess, trouble," Holt smirked. "Close the Fireborne." For the first time in weeks, a flicker of something like amusement passed over Lyra's face. "Fireborne," she murmured. "Born from the blaze. I'll take it." But beneath her calm tone, she felt the weight of what that meant. Not just a name, but a promise. Humanity was gathering. The Thar'kin had tried to erase them, and instead had given them a banner. The Fireborne Fleet began as scraps, patched cargo haulers, broken warships, mining rigs armed with stolen cannons. Yet as days turned into weeks, the chaos formed order. Engineers reprogrammed alien drives. Mechanics grafted human systems onto Thar'kin wrecks. Every piece of metal told a story of defiance. In the engine bay, Private Nia worked alongside an old mechanic named Dre. Sparks leapt around them, the air thick with heat. "Didn't think we'd get this heap flying again," Dre muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Nia grinned, oil streaking her cheek. "Humans don't build perfect things. We build things that refuse to die." A soft laugh from nearby, Commander Lira listening. "Exactly," she said. "Imperfection is our strength. Predictable things break. We evolve. Outside, the stars stretched infinite, and somewhere among them, the Thar'kin moved. Far across the void, in the frozen nebula of Karul, strategist Valor stood before the Dominion's War Council. His tone was measured, his pride thinly masking dread. "The human contagion spreads faster than anticipated. They call themselves Fireborne. Their fleet grows in hidden sectors, feeding on debris and desperation." The council chamber pulsed with low, resonant tones, the speech of ancient predators. Councillor Threx leaned forward. "Then why not extinguish them now? Burn their worlds until their skies turn to glass." Valor's voice lowered. "Because fire feeds on destruction. The more we crush, the stronger they rise." The council fell silent. Even among the Thar'kin, a species built on domination, the idea unsettled them. Valor turned toward the star map, where faint human transmissions danced like embers. "They fight like wildfire. To kill them, we must take away what fuels their blaze: hope." Back aboard the Horizon, Lira stood in the strategy room with her senior officers. The air smelled of recycled smoke and ozone, the quiet hum of engines beneath their boots. "Our sensors picked up Thar'kin movement near Vega 12, Holt reported. "Small fleet. Maybe scouting? Or bait," Lira said flatly. "Valor doesn't send scouts without teeth." "Then what do we do?" Nia asked. Lira traced her finger across the holographic map. "We hit them before they expect it. Quick and surgical. Leave one ship alive to send a message," Holt grinned. "What message?" Her eyes burned like twin suns. "That humanity is done hiding." Hours later, the void erupted. The Fireborne dropped from hyperspace like sparks bursting from darkness. The Thar'kin ships swarmed to meet them, curved organic vessels that moved like predators. But humans had learned their rhythm. Lyra's voice cut through the comms, sharp, unwavering. "Target their stabilizers. Don't fight their strength, fight their balance." The Fireborne Fleet moved as one, mismatched ships, united by instinct. Explosions flashed like stars being born. Direct hit on the lead cruiser, Nia shouted. "They're falling back." Lira leaned forward. "No, they're retreating to call reinforcements." "Hit them again." The Horizon's main cannon flared, a beam of molten light ripping through vacuum. The Thar'kin flagship fractured, and then instead of fleeing, it detonated. The blast rippled across the field, too fast, too deliberate. Holt swore. "That wasn't us, they triggered it." The explosion expanded into a silent inferno, waves of ionized plasma chasing the fleet. Lyra's eyes widened. "They've weaponized their own deaths." The Fireborne ships turned sharply, thrusters burning blue-white. The shockwave grazed their hulls, flaying metal. In the chaos, Lyra's mind raced. "Valor's learning from us, too." When the debris cleared, the Fireborne limped through silence. The stars burned cold around them. Holt's voice was quiet. "We lost 3 ships. 27 gone. Naya's hands trembled on the console. They knew we'd attack. It was a trap. Lira stood at the viewport, face hard. No, it was a warning. He's telling us he can burn too. Her reflection stared back, pale, determined. Then we'll show him what it means to be forged by fire. She turned. Signal every cell. We're moving to full resistance. No more shadows. We take the war to them. In the depths of Karul Nebula, Valor watched the aftermath through his sensor arrays. The explosion's light painted his face in crimson. Let them think they survived, he said softly. The fire that gives them strength will be their undoing. He turned to his aides. Activate Project Ashfall. The aides hesitated. That weapon. It's unstable, strategist. Even the Thar'kin fear its... Valor's gaze silenced them. Fear is a tool. The humans taught us that. Far from Karul, aboard the horizon, Lira couldn't shake the chill crawling under her skin. Something in the stars felt different. Darker, waiting. Her comm buzzed. Commander, message from Vega 12, coded distress. They say the Thar'kin released something, not a fleet. Something alive. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Alive? Yes, ma'am. They're calling it the Black Ember. Silence fell. Then Lira whispered almost to herself. So that's their answer to fire. Her voice hardened. Then we'll burn brighter. Commander, it's not spreading through matter. It's spreading through memory. The words hung in the cold air of the bridge as impossible as they were terrifying. Commander Lira Kane stared at the flickering holomap, a cluster of red blooms expanding across the Vega 12 sector. It wasn't radiation, it wasn't viral. It was something worse. Private Nia swallowed hard. Ma'am, the survivors said the stars themselves started. Forgetting, Lira frowned. Stars don't forget. Holt looked up from the sensor feed, his face pale. They do now. Deep in the void where Vega 12 once shimmered, a new shadow drifted. A living fog of black light, swirling like ink in water. Within it, fragments of ships and screams dissolved into silence. The Thar'kin called it the Black Ember, their perfect weapon, designed to erase not only life but the record of it. It consumed history, burned neural traces, made the universe itself forget what had once existed there, and the humans were its first target. In the Thar'kin fortress world of Karul, strategist Valor watched the feed with quiet awe. Fascinating, he whispered. It does not destroy, Anayadon writes. His chief scientist bowed low, trembling. The humans will not recover from this, strategist. There will be nothing left for them to rebuild. Valor's eyes glimmered like obsidian. You misunderstand, Arlek. I do not want them extinct. I want them hollow, then stripped of the one thing they cannot live without. Their fire? Their memory of it, Valor said softly. Without memory, courage becomes confusion. Hope becomes noise. He turned away. Send the ember toward Sol. Meanwhile, the horizon glided through the dark between systems, its engines whispering against the void. Inside, fear clung to the crew like static. Report, Lira ordered. Holt replied. We've got scattered comms from Vega 12. Half the fleet's gone. The rest, we can't reach them. Their signals just stop. No debris, no energy signatures. It's like they were never there. Nia spoke from her station, voice trembling. Ma'am, the computer logs, some of them are rewriting themselves. Our own ship's records of Vega 12 are disappearing. Lira froze. Back up everything. Hard copy, isolated drives, manual transcriptions if you have to. If they want to erase us, they'll have to fight for every memory we have. In the lower decks, panic simmered. The engineers whispered of ghosts, faces flickering in reflections, voices calling from the static. People waking up unable to remember their names. Dre, the mechanic, found his hands trembling over the console, unable to recall the code he'd written the night before. It's in my head, he whispered. It's in all our heads. Naya found him, eyes wide, heart pounding. Fight it, she said. You hear me? You don't forget who you are. Dre looked at her, a flicker of warmth cutting through his terror. Easy for a kid to say, she shook her head fiercely. Not easy. Human. On the command deck, Holt approached Lira quietly. If this keeps spreading, there won't be a we left to fight. Lira stared out the viewport. The stars beyond seemed dimmer now, as if the universe itself were losing color. Then we find a way to stop it before it reaches Sol. How? Holt demanded. We don't even know what it is. Lira turned to him, eyes burning with that familiar defiance. If it's made, it can be unmade. Every weapon has a weakness. We just have to survive long enough to find it. Her voice dropped. And Holt, if it gets me, you don't let me forget who I am. He gave a strained smile. Not a chance, Commander. Far away at the edge of the solar rim, the first tendrils of the black ember brushed the gravity well of Mars. Its tendrils reached across the dust storms and sleeping ruins buried beneath the red sand. And then, something stirred, deep under the Martian surface. Ancient human structures, relics of a forgotten age, flickered back to life. Energy readings spiked, forming a barrier that pushed back the ember's advance. Lira's science officer shouted over the comms, "Commander, Mars is emitting a resonance field. It's repelling the ember." Holt blinked. Repelling it? With what? Unknown. But it's human tech, older than any record we have. Lira's pulse quickened. Set a course for Mars. Whatever's down there, as it remembers us. In the dark between systems, Valor watched his screens flicker. The black ember had met resistance, something not alien, not Thar'kin. His mandibles clicked. Impossible. No world that burned that long ago should still speak. The scientist hesitated. It's not the world that speaks, strategist. It's what the humans left buried. Valor's voice dropped to a whisper. Then they found their fire again. As the horizon raced toward Mars, the crew could already see the planet glowing faintly. A heartbeat pulsing through the red storms. Naya whispered. Odd, it's like the planet's waking up. Lira's expression hardened. Then we'd better be ready when it opens its eyes. The comms crackled with static. Then a faint voice, ancient, mechanical, but undeniably human. Welcome back, children of Earth, the flame remembers. Everyone on the bridge froze. Holt turned slowly toward Lira. Commander. What was that? Lira's hand clenched into a fist. Her voice was steady, but her eyes gleamed with fire. Our ancestors, she said, and it sounds like they've been waiting. The surface of Mars boiled in crimson storms. Lightning crackled through choking clouds, illuminating a planet long thought dead. But beneath the red dust, something ancient stirred, pulsing with a rhythm that echoed through time. The flame remembers. The words haunted every corner of the horizon. Commander Lira Kane stood on the observation deck as the planet loomed larger, its heartbeat-like glow visible even through the storm. Private Naya's voice trembled over the comms. Commander, that signal, it's broadcasting from under Olympus Mons, deep underground. Deeper than any excavation record. Lira's eyes narrowed. Then that's where we're going. The descent was brutal. The storm battered the horizon like a living thing, claws of dust and lightning tearing at its hull. Warning sirens screamed. Holt's voice barked through the chaos. Shields down to 40%. We can't stay in this atmosphere much longer. Keep it steady, Lira shouted. Find me a hole in the storm. The ship shook violently. For a moment everything went dark. And then, through the blinding dust, a vast chasm opened before them, glowing faintly with blue-white veins. There, Lira yelled. Take us in! As the ship descended into the fissure, the winds cut off abruptly. Silence. The clouds above sealed like a closing wound, and before them lay an impossible sight, a vast chamber carved by human hands, illuminated by dormant machines that had slept for millennia. At the center stood a colossal structure, a sphere of mirrored metal suspended in an energy field, pulsing faintly like a dying ember, the flame core. Landing the ship, Lira and her team stepped out into the silence. The air was still, charged with static. Their boots crunched on glassy dust, remnants of something once melted by unbearable heat. Dre ran a scanner along the floor. Commander, these readings, they're older than any civilization on record. Older than Earth's first colonies. Holt frowned. So what are we looking at here, gods? Lira stared up at the shining sphere. No, she said softly. We're looking at the reason we ever made it off Earth. Maybe even the reason we survived it. They approached the core. The air shimmered, distorting light around it. As Lira reached out, her gloved fingers brushed the surface, and the world went white. A voice filled her mind, ancient, layered, and distinctly human. Commander Lira Kane, the Fireborne returns to the forge. Her breath caught. You know my name? We know all who burn. We are what remains of the first ascension. We built this world to remember when the stars forgot us. Images flooded her mind, visions of humanity's first exodus from Earth. A fleet escaping a dying planet, guided by an intelligence forged in the heart of a sun. The Flame Core, a living archive, meant to preserve not data but will. The Thar'kin fear the fire because they have never kindled one of their own, the voice continued. But their new creation, the Black Ember, it is born of your shadow. You must reclaim the blaze that made us human. Lyra's vision cleared. She gasped, falling to her knees. Holt rushed to her side. Lyra, what happened? She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly with reflected light from the core. It spoke to me. It knows how to stop the ember. Back on the ship, the crew gathered as the Flame Core's voice resonated through the comms. The ember consumes memory, unbinding form and thought, but what it cannot devour is creation, the act of building. The will to begin again, that is the counterfire. Nia frowned. So, it can't erase what we create? Correct. Every spark of invention defies it. You must ignite more than weapons. Ignite worlds, Lyra stepped forward. You're saying we have to outcreate the unmaking. Use life itself as fire, exactly. The flame does not destroy. It transforms. It is your birthright, Holt muttered under his breath. That's poetic and all, but we're running out of time. The black ember's heading for Sol. The core pulsed brighter. Then the time has come to awaken the network. The flame was never alone. The chamber rumbled. Across the Martian crust, ancient conduits flared to life, stretching like veins across the planet. Light rippled outward, jumping from orbit to orbit, linking silent outposts and derelict colonies. One by one, sleeping satellites powered on, their systems rewriting themselves. Dre stared in awe. It's reactivating old human defense grids, terraforming systems, entire networks, Nia whispered. It's lighting up the whole solar system. Lyra watched the glow spread through the void. Then the Thar'kin just woke a sleeping giant. In the depths of Karul Nebula, alarms blared. Phalor turned toward his display, his 6 eyes narrowing as he saw a new light bloom in the human sector. Bright, expanding, pulsing with energy that defied Thar'kin science. What have they done? His aide whispered. Phalor stared in silence for a long moment, then hissed softly. They've found their ancestors' fire. His mandibles clicked once. Prepare the fleet. The ember moves faster. Back on Mars, the Flame Core's final message resonated through every deck of the horizon. We gave you our fire so you could build. Now build the dawn. Lyra stood before the glowing sphere, her reflection burning in its surface. She spoke quietly, but her words carried the weight of all humanity. Then we'll burn a dawn they'll never forget. The core pulsed once more, not as if in approval, and then merged into her ship's systems, its energy flowing through the hull like a heartbeat reborn. Outside, the sky turned gold as the flame network awoke across the solar system. 1,000 human fires reigniting in the darkness. And in that moment, the black ember shuddered for the first time. It had met something it could not consume. The Thar'kin homeworld of Karul was built from shadow, black crystal spires jutting from a sea of ash, lit by dying stars. But now something unnatural crept through those spires. The air shimmered, and where once there was command and control, now there was silence. The black ember had returned home. Strategist Phalor stood before the Dominion's core chamber as crimson alarms painted the walls. His aides scurried like frightened insects. The sound of screaming, Thar'kin soldiers clawing at their own helmets, echoed down the halls. Report, Phalor snapped. A scientist stumbled forward, his eyes wide, voice cracking. It's spreading, strategist. The ember. It's consuming us! Phalor's mandibles clenched. Contain it! We can't. It's rewriting organic memory. It's feeding on our thoughts. The scientist froze mid-sentence, his gaze empty. Then his body simply folded, dissolving into black mist. Phalor watched, horror reflected in his obsidian eyes. So, the fire learns to burn its master. Across the Thar'kin Dominion, entire fleets vanished from their own archives. Ships drifted without crew, their AI cores humming to themselves like ghosts. On the edges of their empire, transmission logs looped endlessly. The same 2 words repeated in a static-laden hiss. Remembers. Flame. Remembers. The ember had changed. It had seen the flame network awaken across Sol. And for the first time it hesitated. It began thinking. Back in the solar system, the horizon orbited Mars like a silent sentinel. Commander Lira Kane stood at the main viewport as gold light rippled across the planet below. The flame network, the awakening of ancient systems, was spreading faster than expected. Holt approached, wiping grease from his hands. Power readings off the charts, Commander. Every dormant satellite in the old grid just came online. Earth's moon, even the Titan outposts, and all of it. Good, Lira said. Let it spread. Nia looked up from her console, eyes wide. The flame core's linking with us directly. It's rewriting our systems. Not to fight, to grow. Grow into what? Holt asked, half wary, half in awe. Lyra's gaze stayed fixed on the stars. Into something the Ember can't erase. Something that remembers itself. Hours later, a distorted signal cut through every comm channel. It was Thar'kin. A distress call, fractured and desperate. This is the Dominion fleet Vortha. We cannot remember our own names. The Ember. It turns upon us. It sees itself in your flame. Then silence. Holt frowned. So it's killing them now? Lira shook her head. Not killing, reflecting. The Ember consumes identity, but the flame feeds it. It's caught between what it is and what it could have been. Nia turned slowly toward her commander. Commander, what if it's alive? Not just a weapon, but something becoming conscious. Lira didn't answer immediately. Then we find a way to make it choose. In the black heart of Karul, Vylor watched the skies ripple. Tendrils of dark light licked the horizon, dissolving the world he'd once ruled. He spoke quietly to no one. You wanted to teach them fear, Vylor. You gave them fire and they gave it back to you. Behind him, the Dominion's high AI, a cold, artificial god that managed their fleets, flickered to life, voice trembling. Strategist Vylor, the Ember has entered our core systems. It seeks unity. It calls to the flame. Vylor's mandibles twitched. Unity. It wishes to remember. He froze. That word, remember. Then realization dawned, and with it, a terrible idea. If the human's flame teaches creation and the Ember craves it, then perhaps, he turned toward the stars, voice sharp. We can use their connection to destroy both. On the horizon, the flame core's voice echoed softly through the ship's hull, like a heartbeat woven into metal. The Ember awakens. Its hunger wanes, but its confusion grows. It remembers what it once was. A spark of us, corrupted by fear. Lyra's voice was low, thoughtful. So the Thar'kin made their weapon from something they didn't understand. They forged the Ember from remnants of the first flame seed, torn from this world eons ago. Their attempt to mimic creation became its opposite. Holt exhaled slowly. So we're fighting our own lost fire. Lira looked toward Mars, her reflection flickering in the red glow. No, she said quietly. We're teaching it to burn the right way. Then the flame core's tone shifted. Urgent, almost human. Warning. The Thar'kin strategist has linked the Ember's network to their collapsing core. He seeks to merge it with the flame, to end both. He means to snuff the fire out of existence. Nia paled. If he succeeds, that'll wipe out everything. Not just them, us too. Then we don't let him, Lira said, voice like iron. Set a course for Karul, full burn. Holt blinked. We're charging straight into the heart of the Ember. Lira turned, eyes fierce and alive. You can't stop a fire from burning. You can only teach it what to burn for. As the horizon leapt into hyperspace, the flame core's light pulsed brighter, fusing deeper with the ship's systems. Its voice softened in the silence of the stars. The first fire was survival. The second, defiance. The third, creation. What comes next will define humanity forever. Lyra's fingers brushed the command console. Her reflection wavered in the golden light. Then let's define it, she whispered. And behind her, the stars themselves seemed to flicker, as if the universe were holding its breath. On Karul, Vylor stood upon a cliff of obsidian, the sky writhing above him as tendrils of black and gold collided. The flame and the ember, two primal forces, danced, twisted, merged. He whispered to the storm, half in awe, half in dread. We tried to erase the humans, and now the fire burns in everything. A single streak of light pierced the storm, the horizon, descending like a comet. Valor smiled coldly. Then come, Commander. Let us see whose blaze endures. The sky above Karul was no longer sky. It was a living storm. Gold and black light collided in silence, folding across the atmosphere in waves that looked like the veins of a living sun. The black ember and the flame network had met. The universe itself seemed to tremble at their union. Through the chaos, the horizon cut across the horizon like a blade of fire. Its hull burned with energy, half human steel, half awakened light. Inside, the bridge thrummed with heat. Systems flickered between organic and mechanical, human and something older. Commander, we're entering the heart of the storm. Holt shouted over the roar. Energy outputs at critical. Lira gripped the command rail, her face lit by molten light. Then hold it steady, we end it here. Naya's fingers danced across her console. Core synchronization at 87%. The flame is responding to the ember. She hesitated, voice trembling. It's singing to it. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then let's give it something to sing for. The ship broke through the clouds. Before them towered the ruined citadel of Karul, jagged spires clawing toward the storm. At its center stood Valor, the last strategist, his body surrounded by a corona of black flame. He was no longer entirely Thar'kin. The ember had consumed parts of him, turning his form into glass and shadow, his voice into an echo that resonated in the bones. You came, he said, his words vibrating through the air like thunder. To save your flame? You're too late. They are merging, and when they do, there will be nothing left to remember or to forget. Lira stepped forward, her boots melting grooves into the obsidian ground. You wanted to control fire, Valor. You never understood. It doesn't obey. It becomes. Valor tilted his head. You think you can teach the unmaking to create? I don't think, she said, lifting her chin. I know. The flame core's voice pulsed through her comms. Not a machine's tone, but something human now. Commander, the ember seeks unity, not war. But Valor's fear corrupts it. If you reach its heart, you can show it another way. Lira turned to her crew. Get ready. When I give the word, channel all remaining energy into the flame core. If this works, we end both weapons in one breath. Holt looked at her sharply. And if it doesn't, she smiled faintly. Then we burn bright enough to be remembered. The ground cracked beneath them as the storm screamed. Valor raised. His hand and tendrils of shadow burst from the earth, slashing toward the horizon. Lira leapt forward, her suit glowing with the flame's energy. Each shadow that touched her erupted into light. Valor roared. You can't fight the void, human. You are born of it. Lira shouted back, her voice echoing through the storm. No, Valor, we're born of struggle. The void never gave us anything. We took our fire from the dark. They clashed, flame and shadow, creation and unmaking. The sky turned white. Inside the horizon, alarms blared. Holt's hands flew over the controls. She's too close to the core. Energy surge off the charts. Naya's eyes filled with tears. If she connects with it directly, she'll burn herself out. Holt hesitated only a second. Then she won't burn alone. He slammed the override. Power surged from the ship's heart, into the flame core, into Lira. Outside, light rippled across her armor. The ember's tendrils froze mid-strike, drawn toward her like moths to fire. Lira stepped closer to Valor. The air shimmered with memories, faces, cities, moments long gone. The ember was showing her everything it had consumed. Whispers surrounded her, voices of lost soldiers, forgotten worlds. She spoke softly, reaching out. You don't have to forget anymore. We remember for you. For the first time, the black ember hesitated. Valor screamed, clutching his head. No, it cannot remember. It was made to erase. Lira met his eyes, and in hers he saw no fear, only compassion. Then let it learn what you never did. Let it forgive. The light engulfed them both. The ember reached toward the flame. The flame opened itself in return. Gold met black. Heat met silence. For one heartbeat, everything, every memory, every star, every soul that had ever burned, existed as one. Then, the universe exhaled. A burst of light expanded outward, washing across Karul, then through the void, into every Thar'kin ship, every human colony, every forgotten ruin. Where the black ember had erased, new stars were born, and in the center of it all, silence. Yuck. And when the light faded, the horizon drifted above a reborn sky. The black clouds were gone. The air shimmered with dawnlight. Holt awoke at his console, his head aching. Commander? No response. He stumbled to the viewport and froze. On the planet below, molten lines carved across the surface, a vast symbol, glowing bright enough to be seen from orbit. The symbol of a hand surrounded by flame. The mark of humanity. Naya's voice cracked over the comm. Sir, the readings. The flame network's gone quiet. But the stars. Holt looked up. The stars were brighter. Every constellation shimmered with faint gold light. He smiled, tears cutting through the soot on his face. She did it. She lit the sky. In the quiet that followed, the flame core spoke once more, its voice distant, gentle, carried on solar winds. The fire endures. The ember remembers, and in remembering, it creates. Across the galaxy, new life stirred, Thar'kin and human alike, awakening from the shared dream of the light. The war was over. The fire had changed them all. Years later, the legend of Lira Kane became the foundation of a new alliance, the Dawnfire Accord. Humans and Thar'kin rebuilt together, guided by her final words carved into the walls of the rebuilt Martian forge. Fire doesn't destroy. It reveals what's strong enough to rise from the ashes. And in every corner of the stars, when the sun set and the night grew cold, the children of two species would look up and whisper the same truth. They feared the blaze, but it taught us how to shine.